All right, everybody. In this particular session, we will learn about Azure Storage and Azure Storage accounts. Okay. So we'll basically in Azure Storage, we can store what kind of data we can store. We can store files. On Azure Storage account, to store files, you can use Azure Blob Storage or Azure File Storage. Okay, we'll understand different types of options that we have under Azure Storage account. We can store files, we can store messages, and we can also store tables, which is kind of a key value store. Okay. Now, these are the different types of data that you can store on Azure Storage. Now, what are the use cases to store this data? Okay, with the help of Azure Storage, you can host a website, or you can store the data that is coming from website. You can store the data that is coming from mobile apps, desktop apps, or data that is generated by multiple applications that will help to engineer the data, which can provide some insights. All right. Now, under Azure Storage account, what kind of data that you can store? We can store unstructured data. That means there is no structure to the data, or else like a data which is semi-structured. We can store that, and we can also store structured data, and we can also provision an additional volume or an additional disk to a virtual machine. Okay. Now, all this we create under a service on Azure called as Azure Storage Account. Okay. Now, under Azure Storage Account, there are multiple options. One of them is called as Azure Blobs. You see here, Azure Blobs is one of the service that is provided by Azure Storage Account. Now, under Azure Blob, the data in this kind of storage is stored in the form of an object. Now, what do we mean by storing the data in the form of an object? It means basically all the files are saved in a flat data environment or in some kind of a pool or a container. Okay, that contains all the data. Not only the data, it also contains the metadata that contains the information about the data that we store and giving permissions, policies, etc. Okay. Now, traditionally, there are other types of storage like a block storage and a file storage. Now, file storage stores and organizes data into folders similar to our physical files you might store in paper filing system in like in the office. Now, a block storage improves on the performance of file storage, breaking files into separate blocks and storing them separately. Those are the different types of storages that we have. That is a block storage, file storage, and object storage. Now, under storage account in a service called as blobs. Blob stands for binary large object. Data here is stored in the form of a object. Okay, it is a object based storage. Now we also have a file based storage, that is another service under storage account, which is called as file storage. Now we are looking into a blob storage. In a blob storage, data is stored in the form of an object, and you can store massive amounts of data in a blob storage. There is kind of no limit. You can keep on storing how much of a data that you want. And one more important thing in blobs is that whatever file that you store, that can be served via web browser by using something like HTTP or a HTTPS. Now, a document can be a PDF document or a Word document. It can be audio, video, any kind of document. It can be served via browser. Now, storing files, now how it can serve via browser? Now, any file that we store on the blob storage, it will get one unique URL. So now that unique URL is part of the metadata. We will see that once we create a blob storage and once we upload some file, we can see that unique URL. I'll show that when you're doing hands-on exercise. Now storing files for distributed access is possible with the help of blob storage. Now we can also stream video and audio data. And under blob storage, we can also use blob storage for storing data for backup, restore, and for archive. We can also use blob storage for that. So these are the some of the use cases of blob storage. So now what is a blob? Under Azure Storage account, there are four services. One of them is a blob storage, and blob storage stores the data in the form of objects. And to store these blobs, we have to create something called as a container. Okay, that is the first level of hierarchy. First we need to create something called as a container, and in the container we can store blobs. Now let us discuss about files. Now under Azure Storage account, first service is blobs. What is the second service? The second service is called as a file storage. Now what is a file storage? It is a highly available network, a file share by using a protocol called as SMB. Okay. Now, with the help of this, you can access the files from anywhere in the world. Okay. If you put your file on a file storage on Azure, you can access that file from anywhere in the world. And this can also be used, one of the best options to migrate your on-premises applications and data. All that you need to do is that mount the file storage onto your server, and as you can simply move the files from one folder to the another folder. So whatever file that we mounted, all the data would come to the cloud. We'll also look that into once we see hands-on exercise, it will be easy for you guys to understand. Now store configuration files on a file share and access from multiple VMs. Now if I create one file storage, we can mount that file storage on multiple VMs. That will help the users create or share files among the groups. Okay. We can also use file storage for logs, for metrics, and any kind of dumps. Okay, this is about file storage. So we have total four types of services under storage account. First one is called as blobs. Second one is called as files. Now the third one is called as queue storage. Now what is a queue storage? Azure queue service is to store and retrieve messages in a queue. Now the queue messages can be up to 64 KB in size, and a queue can contain a millions of messages. Now queues are generally used to store lists of messages to be processed asynchronously. Now when we have an application which is like a two-tier application, three-tier application, and you want the messages to be you want the messages to transport between multiple tiers, we can use a queue storage where all the messages from one tier to another tier will be stored in this particular queue. That is called as a queue storage. And the fourth type of storage is called as a table storage. Now, what is a table storage? A NoSQL key value store for rapid development using massive semi-structured data sets. It is made for enterprise, low latency, high throughput. That means the performance would be very fast. So basically a table storage is nothing but a simple NoSQL key value database that is called as a table storage. So basically there are four types of services under storage account. What is the first one? First one is called as a blob storage. Second one is called as file storage. Third one is called as queue storage. A fourth one is called as table storage. All right. These are the four different types of services. When you want to store data on Azure Storage account, you can also specify what type of service, I mean, what type of disks that you can store your account. Azure basically gives you two types. One is called as standard storage, second one is called as a premium storage. Now, what is the difference between them? Now, if you select a premium storage, your data will be stored on a solid state disks, that means SSDs. So, if the data is stored on SSDs, the performance is a very high. Okay, the latency is low, that means the performance is very high. Now when you want to create an additional hard disk to a virtual machine, you can specify the storage type as premium so that the performance is very good, and this is best for input output intensive applications like your databases. Now if you say that uh, performance, if it is little low, I mean if you're not using a database application, you can choose your storage account, I mean storage type as standard. Now once you choose the storage type as standard, your data would be stored on something called as HDDs. Okay, now the cost for storing data on HDD is a very low when you compare with the cost of storing data on a premium, which is SSDs. Now it is standard is best for applications where you want to store a bulk data, but you don't access it very frequently, right? So that what happens, cost of storing data will become very less. Those are the two types of storage that we have under storage accounts. One is called as standard and second one is called as premium. When we are creating a storage account, we will see this option, standard and premium. Now let us discuss a little bit about Azure Blob containers. Now, as I told you, there are different types of services under storage account. One is called as Blob, second one is called as file storage, third one is called as queue, fourth one is called as table storage. Now, if you have to work with a Blob storage, you have to create something called as a container. Now, what are the capabilities of a container? It is basically stores the data in the form of an objects. You can store huge amount of data. Whatever blobs which is there in a container can be accessed via browser. You can stream audio, video. You can use it for backup, recovery, etc., etc. Now, how it will look like? Let me show you this. Now, let's say if this is my storage account. Okay, I have a storage account. Inside the storage account, I have to create something called as a container. Now, inside this container, I can store the blobs. So, in this particular container, we have 5 blobs. Blobs means nothing but files. Any file that you store inside a container is called as a blob. Blob is called as binary large object. All right. Now, what we'll do, let us go ahead and do one simple hands-on exercise. We will create a storage account. We'll create a container and we will add a blob inside the container, and then we'll come back and we'll see the rest of the options. Let me switch to my Azure portal for that. This is my Azure portal that you see. Now, what we want to do, I want to create a storage account. Now, just go to the search, type in storage, you will see something called as storage accounts. Select this option called as storage account. Now on the top, there is something called as create. Select this option create. Now, as we know that the first and foremost thing we need to mention from which subscription that we want to create the storage account from, and from what resource group. I have a resource group called as demo. I will choose the demo resource group. And the storage account name that you give here should be a unique globally like a DNS name. So let me select, give a storage account name. I'll say level up demo account. Okay. This account name should be unique globally, and the region we can choose the region that we want. Now we have discussed about two types of storages, right? One is called as standard, second one is called as premium. So you can choose whatever type of storage that we want. I'm choosing a standard for this particular demonstration. And we also have a kind of a redundancy. There are four types of redundancies. LRS, which is called as a local redundant storage. GRS, which is called as a geo redundant storage. ZRS, which is called as zone redundant storage, and geo zone redundant storage. These are the four options. We'll discuss them in a bit. Once we finish one hands-on exercise, I'll take you guys to understand what are these different redundancy options that are available on Azure. Now, I have choose all the basic details that are required. Let me go ahead and select this option called as review. Okay, and select create. The deployment is started. Now if you see the resource is created, let me go to the resource. Okay, my storage account name is level up demo account. My storage account is successfully created. Now I have told you guys you have four services under blob storage. One is called as containers, second one is called as file storage, third one is called as queues, fourth one is called as tables. Now under storage account, you'll be able to see all these four options here. Now if I want to use in this storage account, if I want to upload blobs, I can use containers. If I want to create a file share, I can use file share, etc. Now first, let us go ahead and create some container here. Let's go to this option called as containers. Click containers here. Okay. Now you see this on the top, there's a plus button with a container. Select this option called as container. Now in this, let me give a name. The name of the container I want to give is called as level up. Okay. Level up new. This is the name of the container. Now, if you see here, the blobs that I'm going to put, that means the files that I'm going to put in this container, by default, it is having a private access. That means there is no public access for that. But if I want to change the access, just drop down this. There are three options that are available. One is called as private, that means no access to the public. The second one, blob anonymous read access for blobs only. That means each and every blob that we have to give a read access. Now, the third option is container read access for container and blobs. If I give this option, that means all the blobs which are there in this container will have a read access for the public. Okay. Now I'm giving a read access for the public. Let me select this option called as create. Now what it is creating? It is creating a container for me. Okay, now let me take you back to my presentation and show you what we have done till now. Now we created this storage account. Okay, and then we have created a container. Now what we need to do, I will upload these blobs and show to you guys how to upload blobs to the storage account. Let me switch to my Azure console again. So this is my storage account, level up demo account. This is my storage account name, and level up new is my container name. Now let me go into this container. As soon as I go here, you will see an option called as upload here. Okay, select this option upload. Okay, select the file button and I can upload any files here. Okay, now let's say I want to upload some sample file. Open and upload. Now, if this file already exists, you can select this option if you want to overwrite that. Okay. Now you see, I'm able to simply upload a file to a from my local system to the Azure Storage account. Okay. Very simple. All that we did was we created a storage account inside a storage account. So storage account. inside a storage account, I created a container to store the blobs. Now, whatever file that I have uploaded, right? This file is nothing but a blob. Now let me click on this file. Now we can see the metadata of this file. Now I told you that every file will get a unique URL. We discussed the files can be served through a web, right? Now let me copy this. As soon as you copy, you can put that on a new browser and enter. You see the file is downloaded. Okay, so this is a URL. This is a basically this is a complete metadata of this particular file. When is this modified, when it is created, what is the type, size, etc, etc. All this is the metadata of particular file. So every blob that you store will have a metadata. If you store like about 1,000 blobs, all the 1,000 blobs will have a metadata. Now, is it easy for us to come to storage account, upload the data every time, go here and upload? It is easy if we have another tool where we can upload the data or the delete the data, right? Azure gives something called as Azure Storage Explorer to send the data or to upload the data to storage account or to delete the data from the storage account. Let me go ahead and download that tool. So to download that tool, let me go to Google and just type in Azure Storage Explorer. Okay. Now you see the first one is the Azure authorized website. Click on that. Now you choose the operating system. Let's say my operating system is a Windows. If you guys have Mac or whatever, choose your appropriate operating system and then the download will start. You see there's an exe file that is downloaded. I mean the download has started here. Storage Explorer. I already have this file, but I'm showing you guys how to use this file. So I'm opening this tool now. Say yes. I accept the agreement. Select option install. The installation is in progress. All right, the setup is completed. I'll click finish. Now the tool is coming up. Now this is one tool Azure gives us to manage the data on the Azure accounts very easily. Okay. Now this is a tool, right? Now how do I connect this tool to Azure Cloud or Azure Storage account? Now if you see on the right side, there is an option called as Storage Accounts. Now if I do a right click, there is an option called as Connect to Storage. Select this option called as Connect to Storage. Now there are a lot of other options that are popping up. It is asking, do you want to connect a subscription or a storage account or a blob container, file, table, etc. Now I will choose the option called as storage account or service. We can also use subscription. For this demo, let us limit to storage account. Now there are three ways how we can connect. One is by connection string. The second one is by shared access signature. The third one is account name and key. Okay, let's select the option account name and key. Click on next. Now it is asking for the account name. Now where should I bring this account name and key? Now let me go to my storage account. This is my storage account, right? So my storage account name is level up demo account is my storage account. Now if I come under security and networking, under security and networking, there's an option called as access keys. Click on this option called as access keys. Now you will see the storage account name. First of all, let me copy the storage account name. Go back to the storage explorer. give the storage account name. Display name, we can give whatever, however we want to see that uh, account. I will see the display name. Let's say the display name is demo for Explorer. Okay, this is the display that I want to see. Okay, we are giving the name as demo for Explorer, and the account name is level up demo account. This is our storage account name. Now what else we require? We require a key. Let me go back to my storage account. Now if you see here, under key there is some two options are there. One is called as key, one is called as connection string. So now when we actually try to integrate, we saw three options, right? One is with account key, second one is with connection string, and third one is with shared access signature. Now if you want to connect with this key, copy this key. Okay, as soon as you click on the show, you will be able to see this key. Now click here, you will see the message copied. That means the key is copied. Let me go to my storage explorer, type in the account key here, select option next, and then you can select option called as connect. Now you see the display name that I have given, demo for Explorer. Now here you see the blob containers, file shares, queues and table. All the four options which is there under storage account are visible here. Now let me go to blob containers. Okay, it is loading. So you see we have created a blob container by name level up new. It is there. And inside that there's a blob called as the CSV file which is already there. Now let's say if I upload a file using the storage explorer, will it be uploaded to the cloud? Let us test that. Select this option called as upload. So here you have option upload either files or folders. Go to upload files, select, okay, let me go to desktop CSV files. Okay, let me copy bunch of files here. Okay, open and upload. Now you see it is saying that successfully added new connection and it is transferring the data. You see all the files, all the four files it has uploaded. Now let me go to the Azure portal and see whether these files are there in the storage account or not. Let me go here, go to Azure demo account, go to containers, go to this container called as level up new, and I can see all the files I have uploaded through the Azure Storage Explorer. Okay. Now, if I delete from here, okay, choose this Bangalore branch file, go to more and select delete. Saying yes, I'm deleting the file. It is saying deleting here and deletion is successful. Now let me go here, refresh. You see that file has been deleted. So it is very easy to work with file management using the tool Storage Explorer. Okay, that is how you connect. And there are multiple ways to connect, right? Let us see the second option. Connect to Azure Storage, connect to storage account or service. Now, previously we have used account name and key. Now, let us use something called as connection string. Select option next. Give a display name as storage with connection string. The display name is storage connection, and we have to copy the connection string. Now, where can we copy the connection string? Let me go back to the storage account. This is level up demo account is the storage account. Now, if you come down under security and networking, you will see access keys. Click on this access keys. Now here you will see two options. One is key, the second one is connection string. select option show, copy connection string, go back to the storage explorer, paste the connection string over there and select option next and connect. Now you see here, it is showing successfully added new connection. Okay. Now what is this? Storage connection is the where. Again, you have blob containers, file shares, queues and tables. Okay, this is a second way how you can integrate a storage explorer with a storage account. Now there is a third way, right? The third way is shared access signature. Let me show here. Right click on the storage account, connect to Azure Storage, Azure account service. The third one is shared access signature. Next, you have to give a shared access signature URL here. Now, how to get that URL? Let me go here. You will see under access keys, there's an option called as shared access signature. Click on this. Now you'll see the difference is that now a shared access signature, it grants restricted access to the storage resource. When we have used connection string or key, you're getting full access, right? You're getting access to blob, file, queue and table. Let's say I want to give access to only blob. I can restrict that. I want to give access to only container. I can select only container. I want to give a read write access, whatever we want, we can give that. So basically, a shared access signature, it will grant a restricted access rights to the Azure storage resource. So whenever you want to restrict some access, you can use a shared access signature instead of account key and a connection string. So now once you come here, generate something called a SAS key. Now you'll get a SAS token here. All that you need to do is that copy this and connect your storage account. That is how you can connect, integrate storage account with a storage explorer tool. All right. Now let us discuss a little bit about redundancy. So what is this redundancy? When I select this option, when I'm creating a storage account, you're getting this option called as redundancy and there are multiple types, right? Let me explain these four types of redundancies that we have. Let me switch to my presentation. Okay, data redundancy. There are multiple types of data redundancies when you're creating a storage account. One of it is called as local redundant storage. So now if we upload a file to Azure storage account, now Azure gives you 99.9 times 9 availability, durability, etc. Right? Now, how do they make sure that the file that we copy or the file that we upload to Azure storage account, if it is deleted, if a hard disk fail, if a software fails, what will happen to our file? It is deleted, right? But to make sure the data is available, okay, we can choose multiple redundancy options. One of the redundancy option is local redundant storage. Now here, whatever file that I upload, now in the previous demo that we saw, I uploaded one file, right? So basically, Azure will create three copies of it. Okay. Now in one data center only. So local redundant means in one data center, it makes three copies of the same file. So here data gets copied synchronously three times within a single physical location in a primary region. This is the least expensive option but does not give you high availability or durability. So what does that mean? Let's say if this data center fails. Now even though I have three copies, all the three copies are gone, right? So to make sure that if you want more redundancy, there is another option called as zone redundant storage. Now, what is this zone redundant storage? On Azure cloud architecture, it has regions, it has zones, and then the data centers, right? So, inside one region, there are multiple zones. Now, previously, all the data is stored, all the three copies are stored in one data center. Now, the copies, three copies are stored, but each copy in one data center. So now, even one data center which is there in availability zone, if it fails, or a data which is there in availability zone, even it fails, I still have the copy. So here data is copied synchronously across three availability zones in one region. Now, what if this complete region fails? Even I have three files. If complete region fails, I will lose that data, right? To make sure that you have more redundancy, you have another option called as zero redundant storage. Now here data gets copied synchronously three times within a single location in the primary region. That means our LRS. In the primary region it is LRS. Then data is copied synchronously to a physical location in the secondary region. In the secondary location data is copied three times in LRS. So in the primary region, let's say if it is East US, okay, and it will store in a geographically separated another location, another region. Okay, now data is there in two different regions, and here also it is stored in single data center, three copies here, three copies here. But what if this both the now this on the primary it is there in one data center, on the secondary also it is there in only one data center, right? What happens if this both data centers fails? Then we can use another option called as zero zone redundant storage. Now, on the primary, it is ZRS. That means data is stored in three zones. And on the remote, it is stored in one data center. Now, here data gets copied synchronously across three availability zones in the primary region. The data is copied synchronously to a physical location in a secondary region. In the secondary location, data is copied synchronously three times using LRS. So, on the source, that is in the primary region, data is stored in three zones. But in the secondary region, data is stored in only one zone. These are the different redundancy options that is available on Azure Storage accounts. Now let me switch to my Azure console. Now, if you see here, when I go into the redundancy option, I have local redundant. So basically here data is stored in only one data center, but three copies are stored. Now we have another option called as zone redundant storage here. What is a zone redundant storage? Data is copied in only one region, but in three different zones. The next option is GRS. What is this GRS? Data here stored in two different regions. Okay. And geo zone redundant storage. Data is stored in two different regions and also in different zones in a primary region. So you have different, Azure gives you multiple options. It is up to you to choose what kind of redundancy that you require. And based on the redundancy that you select, the charge would vary a little bit. Okay, that is about the redundancy options. Let us recap what we have learned till now. I introduce you guys, introduce you to Azure Storage. Okay, we discussed about storage account and we understood a little bit about blob storage, file storage, queue storage, and table storage. All right. And then we understood about containers and we did one demo how to create storage account and add files. We understood about storage explorer tool. Okay, and how to integrate storage explorer with account key, with connection string, and with SASCII. All right, then we understood about the replication redundancy options. Okay, one is called as LRS, second one is ZRS, third one is GRS, and fourth one is GZRS. Okay, these are the four replication options that are available. Okay, these are the topics that we have discussed part of this session. I will see you guys in the next session to understand more about Azure Storage Account.